how to create a yoga class, how to create a yoga class plan that's seamless and flows easily. So video number 1 was about the centering, the beginning of class, and the 5 points to remember for the beginning of class. This video is for the warm-ups. So what do you need to remember for the warm-ups and what is its function? First of all, it's very important for you as a teacher, but also for the students. 1, you need to evaluate the students in the room. Maybe the class plan that you planned out is not appropriate for the people who are in the room. Secondly, consider the policy of where you're teaching. Some studios say their policy is teach to the most advanced person, or their policy is teach the class for the beginner in the room. Others are try to ask you to try and get it in the middle. All of these policies have good reasons, so how your warm-ups are depends on the policy, also on the policy of the place that you're teaching. The warm-ups are an opportunity for you and the students to exercise muscles, maybe, and joints, work on certain movements that we don't use in our daily lives or very often. I've been to classes where they do they work on the eyes. Imagine that there's a clock in front of you, don't move the face, look up to the 12, look over to the 3, all the way down to the 6, etc. I know that my toes are not very flexible, so almost in all my classes now I do toe stretches. So that is another opportunity for you. It is also a transition from a moment of stillness to movement. Therefore, how you create the warm-ups is very important. Keep in mind what pose you chose to start the class with. And the movements at the beginning of the warm-ups need to seamlessly connect with that starting pose. What do I mean by that? Say, for example, the class, the centering started in Sukhasana. So poses that would seamlessly work in Sukhasana, they're already seated. So shoulder rolls, neck rolls, side stretches, seated twists. If they started in child's pose, seamless movements that we could start the warm-ups in, side stretches in child's pose, twists in child's pose. Another option is they're already on the floor to slide forward into Sphinx pose. Some classes start with supine cobbler's pose, so Supta Konasana. Options there are you're on the back, supine twists, so twists while you're on the back. Banana asana is a yin pose. It works beautifully for the beginning of the warm-ups if you chose a pose on the back to start the class with. Half happy baby, perhaps a supine forward bend. You're on the back. Great opportunity for core work as well. The middle of the warm-ups depends on what your focus is and what kind of class you're teaching. So, for example, perhaps you are creating some poses for some muscle memory for the students to more easily get into poses that you've planned later on in the class. Perhaps it is to use muscles that we don't use often. Perhaps it is to get them really warm to be ready for the rest of the class. Maybe this is the warmest part of the class. So it really depends on what your focus is for the middle of those warm-ups. How to end. So most lineages, after the warm-ups, we have the sun salutations. Yes, the sun salutations do vary depending on what your lineages are, where they came from. Sun salutations are not all the same with all lineages of yoga. I had a teacher, Tao Portion Lynch, who I remember I went to a couple of her classes, and she would say, well, I could tell which part of India this person learned by the way they did a sun salutation. Anyway, just a little added piece of information there. So how do we end? After the warm-ups are the sun salutations. How do we begin the sun salutations? We begin the sun salutations standing. So how do we transition from the warm-ups to standing so that they're ready? They're at the top of the mat for these sun salutations. So I drew a little stick figure kind of map of how you could get there. Find their way into downward facing, step 1 foot forward, then the other, get to Uttanasana, standing forward fold, press into the feet, reverse swan dive, come all the way up to Tadasana. And they are there at the top of the mat in Tadasana, ready for the sun cells.